Zoom XTECH HB100 is a cheap and popular line pull hydraulic brake that can be found on some bikes and electric scooters. It has a design flaw that makes it leak the oil and lose braking capabilities. Don't throw it away though, as it can be easily fixed by replacing a failing O-ring seal. You are going to need some tools to do this replacement. T15 torx wrench, T20 torx wrench, 2mm hex wrench or a screwdriver, small flat screwdriver, snap ring pliers, or something pointy like this old broken voltage probe, mineral oil for bike brakes, bleed kit for hydraulic brakes, or if you have a way to drill 1mm hole through M4 bolt, an M4 bolt or screw, 2 plastic syringes. I use 10ml and 20ml ones, silicone tubing. Tube from intravenous drip works fine as it fits the syringes and can be sourced from local pharmacy for cheap. A new O-ring with an internal diameter of 7mm and cross-section of 2mm. Optionally, Teflon tape to better seal the thread. And finally, needle nose pliers. So, without further ado, let's get started. First, remove the brake pads from the caliper. To do so, use pliers to bend the end of the caliper side pin straight. Pull the pin from the caliper, then you will be able to remove the brake pads. To do so, you can pull them out like I did, or you can try to push them out from the other side. My brake pads are dirty, but overall they are not in a bad shape, so I will just clean them up and reuse them. Let's put brake pads aside and inspect the caliper. Clearly there is a lot of dirt, so let me clean that up first. I'm using a paper towel with some isopropyl alcohol. Now unscrew the lever using T20 torx wrench. Next, unscrew the lever from the piston rod using a 2mm hex screwdriver. Turn the tool clockwise to screw it all the way in. Remove the rubber cap and inspect the piston plunger assembly. It is hard to see on camera, but everything was covered with oil, so it's clearly leaking. Now, this part is a bit tricky since I don't have a proper tool to remove this locking ring. I try to use tweezers to squeeze the ring, but the tweezers are too small and soft, so I just pry it off one end and try to find another tool to pull it off completely. First using a flat screwdriver, then with pliers, tweezers again, oh snap, they are bending even more. And finally I found this pointy voltage probe that did the job. Let's wipe it off with a paper towel. You can see how dirty it was. I try to push the piston by hand to see what will happen. It has a very stiff spring, so it doesn't want to move without a lever. But a small drop of oil showed up. To remove the piston, we need to open one of the bleeding ports to allow some air inside. Use T15 torx wrench to remove the screw. Without opening up the hydraulic system, it might be impossible to pull it out. Looks empty? Nothing comes out. Alright, let's pry out the piston with a flat screwdriver. Oh, here's the oil. The chamber looks a bit dirty, but there is no visible damage on the walls. But the piston and the O-ring have some scarring on the contact surfaces. Here is a picture from microscope. Let's wipe off the rest of the oil with a clean paper towel. This surprised me. It looks like the piston was designed for a different type of seal, but they slapped in an O-ring that is floating around freely. I'm not an expert on hydraulics, but it doesn't seem right. Oh well, let's remove the O-ring and continue. Here is a new O-ring compared to the old one. The inside diameter is 7 mm and the radial cross-section is 2 mm. I will be using Shimano mineral oil that I sourced from a local bike shop. Let's get a new O-ring looped up and installed on the piston. Oh wait, don't forget the spring. Drop the piston into the cylinder chamber. It went in quite easy with satisfying amount of friction. Now it is time to figure out how to install the plunger. I looped it up a little bit since it is a friction-based ball connector. To push in the piston further, I had to open the bleed port again. While pushing on the piston, I closed the bleeding port again to create a little bit of vacuum inside. At this point, I really wished I had a proper tool for the locking ring. Again, I was fiddling around with a lot of different tools, but finally I managed to push in one side using a flat screwdriver. From there, I started pushing it bit by bit and it finally snapped into place. Nice. Now, slide in the dust cover, making sure it is secured in place. Screw in the lever back to the plunger, making sure it aligns with the mounting point on the caliper. I forgot to clean the bushing, so when it fell off and I saw how dirty it was, I gave it a quick wipe. Secure the lever with a T20 torx screw. I tested the feel of the piston. At this point we don't have oil in the system, so the caliper doesn't work quite yet. Time to fill the caliper with oil and bleed the air out. You probably want to use a proper hydraulic bleeding kit, but since I don't have one and my local bike shop was closed for the day, I started improvising. I found M4 screws that fit perfectly inside bleeding ports. So I decided to cut off screw heads. Then I mounted a piece of threaded rod that was left on my CNC machine. Using 0.9mm drill, I made a hole through entire threaded rod. And this is the result. Let's assemble our improvised bleeding kit. threaded rod was a little bit loose inside of the silicone tube, so I decided to use a little bit of heat shrink. And this is the second syringe I prepared. This one has removed plunger. Make sure both bleeding ports are open. Start pushing oil slowly into the caliper while pumping the piston. You will see a lot of air bubbles leaving the caliper. Keep pumping and maybe tap the caliper a few times until you can't see the bubbles anymore. After you're done, unscrew the syringe, remove excess oil and close the bleeding port with a T15 screw. Here you can see that the connection wasn't tight and some oil leaked out. That's why I was suggesting using some Teflon tape at the beginning of this video. Do not use too much force tightening those screws, because you might damage the rubber seals underneath. Nice and clean. It's time for the last step, installing brake pads. Slide the brake pads into the caliper, keeping correct orientation. Insert side pin and bend the end so it can't fall off. And we are done! Congrats! Last thing I want to say is that before I even started editing this video, I was already using this brake for 2 weeks on my electric scooter. It brakes as it's supposed to, and so far nothing is leaking. Thank you for watching. End of video.